Hi there, and welcome to today's webinar, Shaping the Future of AI in Education, a panel for K-12 leaders. My name's Kendall Hunter. I'm the Director of Marketing at Otis, and I'm excited to be your moderator for today's webinar panel discussion. It will be a true roundtable. So we have four incredible K-12 leaders here to discuss AI, including where their school is at or not at with an AI implementation, how they see AI shaping the future of education, what professional learning looks like in their school community, policy development, I saw lots of questions come in on that, and more. Before we jump into our conversation and you hear from them, I just want to take a moment to share more about our webinar sponsor, Otis. If Otis is new to you, welcome. Otis is a K-12 assessment, data, and insight solution that really brings together all of your district's data so you can identify trends and track progress really at every level, from individual students and their learning needs to class, school, and district needs. We combine the tools for assessment, grading, data analysis, and progress monitoring all in one place. And we are actively weaving AI into every aspect of our platform so educators can really more quickly get the insights and answers we need. We know that not every educator brings a background of data analysis to the table. I personally remember the first time I spent hours sifting through map RIT scores trying to figure out my student groupings. But with Otis AI, we really aim to level the playing field, so understanding what your students or your school need is accessible and doesn't take more time than it should. As you'll hear today from our panel, AI, when done right, should make teachers and administrators, everyone more efficient, but more importantly, impactful. And that's the main goal of everything that we do at Otis. So that's the approach that we're bringing to this conversation today. With that, I do want to run through some technical aspects of our session, just so you can ensure the best possible experience, and then I will introduce your panel to you. Please check the audio settings on your computer, as well as your speaker volume if you're having any trouble hearing me. If you're having issues as it stands now, just give your browser a quick refresh, and that should settle the issue. But there is a detailed audio troubleshooting file in the resource list under the Q&A should you need that. If your console freezes or you hear music at any point moving forward, please refresh your browser. Since this is a discussion, you may want to enlarge the media player within your console to focus on our speakers who are with us here today. We do have some slides. As you'll see, I might click to a few here and there just to reference things, but the focus is a conversation. There are some other icons that open additional features within the panel of the webinar console. I want to call out the resource list, as we've curated some resources for you on AI. And we even have an example of a district's AI policy that one of our panelists has kindly shared. So some good resources for you there. We welcome your questions. Please type those in the Q&A box that is accessible through the tabs located on your console and not in the group chat. That'll just help me track those questions so I can ask the panel those at the end when we get to open Q&A. Finally, an on-demand archive of today's presentation will be available online within the next 24 hours. That's accessible through edweek.org using the exact same login that you used today. I know this always comes up and inevitably will come in the chat again, but I want to reiterate, yes, this is being recorded. So if you need to step away, you will receive a link by email. So yes, we are recording this. Send it along to a friend, watch it later. I know everyone is busy, so we just appreciate you being here, and we'll be sure to share that afterwards. So with that, let's meet the experts who will be leading today's conversation. As I mentioned previously, Otis is deeply committed to AI, and not just to give educators more technology. Nobody needs that. We're not just implementing tech for the sake of it, but to enhance the already robust set of tools, that we offer in a way that stays true to our mission of saving educators time and helping students grow. The speakers that we have today in this conversation are all members of Otis's AI Advisory Board. And what that is it's a board featuring K-12 leaders from really over 30 school districts in the US who are committed to furthering their own knowledge of AI and also using those learnings to drive AI in their district. So that's a really exciting, something that we all have in common on this panel today is that AI Advisory Board. But first, I'd like to introduce you to Neil Weatherby. Neil is the superintendent of Northport Public Schools in Michigan, where he has spent the past 9 years leveraging his background in elementary education and has a passion for authentic learning experiences to empower students to demonstrate their knowledge in meaningful ways. Earlier in Neil's career, he played a key role in opening 2 schools and co-authored 2 books on educational technology and 21st century skills. So we welcome Neil to our panel. Next, we have Dr. Michael Liebefeld, a nationally recognized educational leader and the superintendent of North Shore School District 112 in Illinois. He is a sought-after speaker and author of several books on leadership and education, including The Unfinished Leader and Student Voice. Dr. Liebefeld's latest book, Leading for Tomorrow's Schools Today, will be out in 2025, so that's super exciting. And Dr. Liebefeld has received multiple awards for leadership and was also recently accepted into the ISTE ASCD Generation AI Fellowship. So I'm sure we're going to hear more about that today. Next, we have Dr. Adrian Usher, who is the Assistant Superintendent in Bullitt County Public Schools in Kentucky. Dr. Usher brings over 2 decades of educational experience to the conversation today. In her current role, she provides comprehensive leadership, overseeing instructional programs, school operations, and regulatory compliance. Her career includes roles as teacher, counselor, principal, and administrator. So bringing lots of backgrounds to today's conversation. Last but certainly not least, we have Caitlin Welson, the Instructional Technology Coordinator for Wooddale School District 7, also in Illinois. She has spent time as a middle school teacher and K-5 instructional coach. And in Caitlin's current position, she works towards students expanding their educational experience through authentic technology application. So we welcome each of these speakers for taking time out of their busy days to be here. Thank you to all. Before I open up the floor here, I just want to ground the conversation briefly in the concept of listening and learning. As AI continues to evolve, conversations like this one we're having right here today, are more important than ever. There's truly so much we can learn from one another, and that's why we're here today. So if you're not already engaging in conversations with other leaders, whether in your area or across the country on this important topic, I hope today is the start of that journey for you. So Dr. Liebefeld, Neil, and Dr. Usher, your districts are all at different stages in AI adoption. So I am going to kind of go to each of you here. But when I do, I'm wondering if you can briefly share where your district is in the AI journey, and then what your overall philosophy is on AI's role in education. And Dr. Liebefeld, I'm going to toss it to you to open it up.
All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It's great to be here. So in North Shore School District 112, we're actively navigating the exciting intersection of generative AI and education. Currently, we are in the exploration and integration phase. We're intentionally engaging with AI tools that we'll talk about later today across various grade levels and subject areas to enhance both student learning and staff productivity. Our journey is deeply rooted in thoughtful experimentation, robust professional development, and continuous reflection. Our philosophy centers on the belief that AI in education is not about replacing human judgment or human connection, but it's about amplifying our educators' impact, empowering student voice, and also personalizing the learning experiences for youth and for the adults. We approach AI as a transformational partner, helping educators unlearn traditional constraints, embrace innovation, and courageously step into new instructional possibilities. In essence, AI represents an opportunity to deepen human connections and creativity, pushing our district toward unprecedented growth and continuous improvement in teaching, learning, and leading. And I am speaking to you using AI glasses, reading from a teleprompter. I will be less formal as we go on, but I thought it would be appropriate for this webinar.
I love it. Thank you for that. And I just, as you were chatting, I was writing down 2 words that I think are just so central to this conversation as we think about kind of grounding us, amplify what you're already doing, and unlearn things that you've become accustomed to so we can prepare students. So thank you for that. And we might have to tell others about those AI glasses later in case they want to purchase them. But I'm going to go to Neil next. Neil, same question. Tell us about Northport. Where are you all at in your AI journey? And what's your philosophy on AI and its role in education?
You know, I think that everything that Dr. Liebenfeld said mirrors sort of what we believe. Right now, we are in the beginning stages. We have generic board policy supporting the use of it, so long as it doesn't interfere with the students' learning. We're mostly in sort of the ChatGPT world right now. We've created quite a few bots that the staff and students can use to create scales for their measuring their standards, analyzing policy. We have a few teachers who are, dabbling with explicit lessons for students. I know our 10th grade English teacher is working on a lesson where the students are writing an essay and then using AI to help revise it. But I also think that we are on this journey, but I've been around long enough to have been on multiple ed tech journeys. And for me, like one of the questions I like least in an interview is, how do you integrate technology into your instruction? To me, technology is a tool that's part of instruction. So our AI journey is similar to our pencil journey or our one-to-one device journey. We're on it, we're using it, but it's not something that defines who we are right now.
Thank you for that. I appreciate that context. I think that's really important. And I love that example you gave around how your high school English course is using AI. We received a ton of questions in the pre-registration around how AI can be used to kind of do exactly what you said there, revise, teach students how to use these tools and maximize their value without replacing that critical thought that's so important. So thank you for that. We'll probably dig into that more later, but I wanted to call out that you've got some fans who are wondering exactly what you're doing with that. Dr. Usher, tell us more about Bullitt County. Where are you all at in your AI adoption, and what is your philosophy as a district or yourself on AI in education?
So thank you. I'm excited to be here. So we have definitely embraced the AI journey here in Bullitt County Public Schools. We believe the future of work is headed that way. We know that it's everywhere. It's on your cell phone. It's everywhere, and so we are really working on embracing it, teaching it, and I want to echo what others have said. We're very similar in our journey. We are learning about it as we go. Understanding, and we know it's ever changing. Tools are here today and they may disappear in a few months, and then we're continuing to relearn that. Really just being about the learning experience is really our philosophy around it. Using the AI to complement that journey, to be about what we want our students to know, be able to do, demonstrate, and apply. And then where does the AI fit into that? And that's really our philosophy, along with ensuring that our students are prepared for that next step when they leave us.
Huge. I love that you are looking at the learning journey and kind of fitting it into something that you're already doing. And I think that's just maybe a misconception around AI is like, does AI need to be its own initiative, its own thing? And it's like, no, we can weave these tools into what we're already doing that's high quality, that's effective. So thank you so much for kind of level setting that expectation there for folks who are just looking to get started. Caitlin, I'd love to hand it over to you now, but I'm going to ask you a slightly different question here because of your role. So of course, we want to know about Wooddale's AI implementation, including where you're all at in the adoption. But I'd also be curious if there's any key themes or topics that you find yourself working through in your role supporting educators and students as an instructional technology coach.
So much like the other panelists, we're in a very similar situation. We have that policy in place. It hasn't been shared with all of our educators yet, but some early adopters have seen it and have been working alongside with it. We're kind of split where we have so many people who are ready to embrace this and accept the challenge and change the way they teach, change the assignments they have, and others who are very hesitant to kind of get on board with this as being the way education is going. So it's been interesting to work with those early adopters, and see how they can use it more than just like a Google, where they've been interacting, working with the teachers who have just been putting those kind of generic questions into the AI bots that we've been using. And some of the ed tech tools that we utilize are starting to implement pieces of it as well. But then teaching them how to use those interacting tools to get more out of it, not just using it as like a search bar.
That's great. Thank you so much for adding that. And I took a note of something while you were chatting. Early adopters, we will certainly talk more about this, but those individuals are going to be so huge to kind of navigating those initial waters, testing tools out, providing feedback. And I think as schools, we can lean into our early adopters for that feedback and that really generating that buy-in across staff if you have hesitancy. So thank you for touching on that. I want to thank you all for kind of sharing where you're at. A big piece of AI implementations in any school district is going to be professional development. And of course, that's not just AI specific. We need PD or professional learning to help with any new tools that we roll out. So this is not unique to AI. However, the reality is that with AI, there are certainly some skills that not all educators have fine-tuned yet, or that maybe are still developing on their own. So what I'm curious around and would love to hear from everyone on is how your district is addressing this and really working to ensure that educators and staff feel confident in using AI effectively so that they can then in turn support the students who will be using AI. Dr. Lubefeld, I'm going to throw it back to you for this one. Where are you all at in your professional learning with educators?
So we are unfinished and we're in process. In our district, we are really committed to professional development and supporting what our teachers most need and what our principals most need. We do think this is really a cornerstone of successful everything integration, kind of similar to what Neil said earlier. This is holistic. It's really about everything that we're doing. So there's been a multi-tiered and multifaceted approach here, from superintendent messaging through the staff weekly newsletter, through the principal weekly newsletter, from webinars that we ran last summer, optional voluntary type of webinars, and then we hosted them on our intranet so people can get them as they wanted, to reaching out with specifically one of our instructional coaches, primarily as my main liaison as superintendent's office, working with some folks in the teaching and learning department, learning ourselves at various programs like AASA, like COSIN, like ASCD and ISTE. Something really, really neat right now is that we've partnered with Hanover Research to actually survey our staff members about AI and also about professional development. And we're trying to integrate that cross-sectionality as to what they need. So we're hearing their voice. And as a Generation AI fellow with ISTE, I was gifted or granted multiple scholarships for staff members here, voluntary. If they want, they can do a 5-hour self-paced online course, and 44 of our employees, 44 of our staff have asked to do so. So professional development is individualized, personalized. We are not doing enough of it. We want to do more of it. It's a huge deal, and we're trying as fast and as appropriately as we possibly can. We've also partnered with some companies that we'll talk about later to talk with you that, and I also taught at our Institute Day in October.
That's awesome. And wow, what an opportunity that fellowship has provided your staff.
Yeah.
That's incredible. But I think what you said there at the end is just so huge, right? We want to get so much professional learning in front of our teachers, and we're all just doing the best we can, right? There's only limited time, and we got to take it as we can. So that's a good reminder. I know I saw in a lot of the pre-registration questions, how people are making time for this among all their other priorities. And I appreciate you kind of level setting there that we're doing the best we can, and we're getting it in there when we can and learning as we go.
Yes.
Neil, how about Northport? Any professional development or learning initiatives that you all have in place that you want to share around focusing on building that teacher capacity? Excuse me.
Yeah, so I think that one of our big initiatives this year, the last couple of years, has been teacher clarity and standards reference grading, kindergarten through 12th grade, which doesn't seem like an AI-related PD, but we've really been focusing on clarity of what we want students to know and demonstrate, which really does lend itself to more of the AI conversation. As far as actual AI PD, we've done some work with MASA, our branch of AASA. Kent ISD out of Grand Rapids has some great resources. They've evaluated virtually every AI tool that's out there and run it through a series of questions to look at who is safe to use with and what purpose. And one of the big things I really want to stress is that we've made an effort for our staff to attend conferences around the country, and a large group of my staff has attended various Learning the Brain conferences, which is not, I guess the one in April was about AI in particular, but really helping the teachers understand things like cognitive load and how that affects students being successful. And so being able to figure out how a tool like AI can support students learning versus just simply PD on AI.
I love that. And that is definitely going to be something I think Dr. Usher will talk about more here now, because she kind of touched on this before, but a big takeaway of what I heard you share there is lean into what's available. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. There are agencies that are going through and vetting tech tools and making sure that they are checking all the boxes across the board so that the work doesn't rest on the shoulders of one person alone, which I think can feel daunting to many. So I think that's really great advice. Look into your state agencies, look into the resources that are available on tools. There is plenty out there of what to look for and who's been, checked. So that was great. Great intel there. Thank you. Dr. Usher, how does PL or professional learning, look at Bullitt County? Anything to add here around what your approach has been?
Yeah, very similar to what we've heard the other panelists say. We've really taken, we really value coherence here across the organization. We are the 7th largest district in the state of Kentucky, and so we have instructional coaches, we have digital learning coaches. And we ensure that our professional learning, what our instructional leaders are getting, what our district administrators are getting, what our coaches are getting, what our teachers are getting, there is coherence across all of that. And that was really how we took the approach with AI as well, introducing that, as our instructional coaches are co-planning and working and involved in coaching cycles with teachers. Our digital learning coaches, they're out doing professional learning with teachers at schools. We have certain designated district days within our calendar where staff come in and students are off, and we embed it in there. It really is job embedded professional learning. This is kind of how we work. We value the PLC process here and making sure teachers understand their standards and what students need to know, and using AI to help us with the work we're already doing. In fact, today our digital learning coaches are at the state conference in Kentucky, and they're presenting on AI and the tools that our teachers are using to differentiate and personalize. So really just trying to make it so that everyone is modeling how it can be used effectively across all parts of the organization, all the way across it. So
it sounds like you all are implementing the same tried and true practices that we suggest with students, right? Model it, show it in practice, align it to something relevant. So I appreciate you kind of setting the stage there for what that looks like. And that's awesome that your team is doing some PD today or at a conference. That's really cool to hear. I do want to point out, I am going to put in the chat, Neil actually shared a resource with me that I'm going to pass along to you all that has privacy and safety checks. It was referenced in the conversation we were just having around leaning into what's available on different tools. So if that's something that's useful to you, definitely check that out. It's just a bit.ly of privacy and safety checks. There's plenty other places you can go online for this information, but just passing along resources here in the name of learning together. Caitlin, tell me more about professional learning at Wooddale and really what topics have y'all been focused on in your teacher trainings? Have teachers been kind of identifying what they want to learn more about? What does the AI learning look like for you all, especially as you're on kind of the precipice of rolling out a policy?
We have been attempting to be very intentional with the professional development that we have implemented with this, looking at the why as to why teachers want to work with this. Why do we need it? What direction is it going in? So we have teacher academies and we have early dismissals where there's staff meetings and they have this professional learning. But it's really trying to get, like I mentioned earlier, those early adopters who are just so excited, which is a positive thing, but getting them to take that step back and look at what pieces they want to implement and how they can tie that into their instruction. So we've been rewriting some units too. So when the teachers are rewriting those units, we've been looking at some of the tools that they can use to enhance the student instruction and student achievement within those units. So again, we've been really slow with the professional development, but because we really want to make sure we have that why question answered as to what we're looking at and what we're looking for.
That's huge. I think with anything, we have to be able to explain why it is we're doing it, what we want it to look like. And to your point, just being intentional. That is so powerful when it comes to new learning. And I think it makes it a little less scary when you know that the person who's rolling out something new has done the work to prepare for the conversation, to think about what this looks like in practice and isn't just throwing another tool our way. So thank you so much for sharing that perspective. We are going to kind of shift our conversation here into where we all see AI moving as it continues to evolve and kind of shaping what we're doing with students. But before we do that, I do want to ask an audience question. Neil, I'm going to throw this question to you. We've had a number of questions around if anyone has thoughts on differentiating AI use by grade level. And with Northport being K-12, I kind of wanted to just get a temperature check from you around if you've had conversations around usage at elementary versus secondary levels in Northport. What are your thoughts, Neil?
Yeah, before I answer that, I just want to say that the AI privacy check I sent is from Kent ISD. It's Sarah Wood's work. So she has a license, Creative Commons, so it's yours to use, but just trust that it's from a high quality source, but you should verify all of the information on your own. As far as Northport goes, I mean, for us, AI is new for like our teenagers and older. I mean, for elementary kids, this is going to be what they're used to. I think back of when I was in middle school, internet came to my town, and I talked to my high school science teacher, and he's like, "What's this internet thing everyone's talking about?" And now my own teenage daughter that doesn't know whether her app needs the internet or not, she can't figure out why her game's not working. So I think that over time, things are new for old people, and they are what they are for younger people. And so we haven't talked about it explicitly at the K-5 level, but we really have been focusing on purpose statements, and everything we do has to have a purpose. And so if you can articulate what it is that you want students to do, what's going to demonstrate success, they're certainly more than welcome to use an AI tool to help with that. But it really you have to know what your purpose is and what you're trying to accomplish, and find the tool that matches that.
Thank you. That was super helpful. I appreciate you answering that question on the fly there. So as we shift to kind of looking at the future of AI, or maybe the future of AI is the present for you if you're actually using tools today with students or in your schools. But one of the topics that I've heard already mentioned here, and I saw in all the pre-submitted questions, which thanks again for everyone for teeing those up for us, was around personalized learning and how that it is such a promising application of AI. Caitlin, I'm going to throw it to you first here, especially in your role. I think you bring such a unique perspective. How have you really thought through, or how do you see AI shaping the future of the ability for teachers to differentiate more easily, keep students engaged, and really provide personalized resources or recommendations? Any thoughts on how AI might play a role in that?
I think the first and most obvious answer to that with AI, you have the time-saving feature of that, where the teachers historically didn't have things accessible to them to differentiate so quickly or to make those personalized learning paths available to students. They'd have to spend quite a lot of time on their own, planning all those different lessons, where now you have some chatbots, you have some coding features that, they trigger right to the students' interests, where it meet them at their level. They have different math lessons available to them that may reflect their interests in, word problems, or meeting them at their level with that reteaching aspect as well. So it's freed up a lot of the teacher time, which is like the easiest answer of the use of AI, but then you have that authentic student experience where they connect to the curriculum more on a higher level than they used to. So it opens doors for those kids to really remember those lessons and have that personal connection, where in the past that was done, but much more time consuming to the teachers.
Absolutely. It's really that balance between what the benefit of these time-saving tools can bring to us to kind of make that process a bit easier. I remember a differentiation for me when I was a teacher was my Post-it board of everybody's small groups and the focus for the day. And certainly there is a better way, because that was really, really time-consuming. It took hours to get there for just a short lesson. So we can certainly use technology to help us there. Adrian, I want to toss it to you to kind of hear your thoughts too around personalized learning, differentiation, and then also I know you might have some thoughts around that question on like secondary versus elementary AI use and where to start. What are your thoughts?
Sure. So definitely the time saving, that is crucial, that Caitlin talked about, that we're seeing with teachers. As far as differentiation and personalization, I think it really, for us, has started with finding the tools that really teachers are comfortable with when it comes to the AI, and then being able to use some of those. I think there's lots of tools out there that have the AI embedded into it, and finding the ones that teachers can use consistently with their students that are able to help them differentiate and personalize. I know in elementary we're dabbling a little bit with some chatbots. We're just kind of sprinkling our toes a little bit in elementary. There's really not a lot out there. Just starting to do that. One of the ways that we're also seeing personalization and differentiation from teacher to students is for real-time feedback when it comes to tools such as Class Companion. We've got Brisk, EduAid. There's lots of different tools we're seeing teachers use to provide. When you think students and writing and giving feedback, that takes a lot of time. So teachers are still able to review it, see it, make sure, have that. It's not taking away the decision making or the thinking from the teacher or the student, but really being able to get to more students in a shorter amount of time when you think about how many students are in a classroom versus the one teacher there. Elementary, more in the intermediate grades, 3rd, 4th, and 5th, we're seeing teachers use a little more. That K1 and 2, we're still learning about that. I think that's definitely an area that we're going to see more growth in the future with AI tools. But a tool that we're seeing, we're really working on PBL. And so there's a tool, Inkwire, that we use in our district, and it's really letting our teachers differentiate those project-based learning experiences that can be co-created with our students. So it's exciting, but and also what's exciting about it is teachers are learning alongside students. Everybody's kind of learning about it together, which is another aspect to that personalization for students and teachers as well.
Thank you for calling out some of the tools you're using. I know I saw some questions around that, so I really appreciate you naming what you've kind of seen that tried and true success with initially here. And I just want to put an extra emphasis on learning alongside our students. As a former special education teacher, I always had to model how important it was to take risks just in the classroom, to take risks with your learning when you're not comfortable, when you're not confident, to kind of build up that capacity to feel comfortable so that you could open up to the possibility of, hey, it's okay to be wrong. And I think this is an opportunity for us as educators with students to also kind of put ourselves in a vulnerable situation in terms of taking those risks. I know I always like to plan for everything, but it's okay, right? We want our students to that. And sometimes we have to model, like, let's give this a try. Let's see if it works. And if it doesn't, we'll move forward. So I appreciate that you said that, you're normalizing teachers learning alongside students in some ways, because, there might not be another way around that right now. Dr. Liebefeld, I know your district has made great strides in AI adoption, and I do want to call out that you shared your policy that is in the resource list for folks if they want to take a look at that. But what's next for North Shore 112? Are there emerging AI applications or pilot programs that you're exploring? What's in the future for North Shore's AI use?
Thank you so much, Kendall. All of the above. So in our district, we are excited to build on our early successes and really continue exploring the frontiers of artificial intelligence integration in all elements of learning and teaching. Looking ahead, we're actively evaluating emerging AI tools designed for deeper personalization for learning, especially in the areas of literacy, mathematics, and multilingual education. Now, currently, optional choice. We have educators and students, specifically with educator guidance and direction, engaging directly with platforms such as Magic School AI and School AI. We've had pilots from last May through September, and we've had enterprise relations since September up to present. We're going to renew for next year. We also have Google's Gemini workspace for education, enabling all of us for more, personalized dynamic teaching and learning experiences. We also are piloting innovative programs that leverage AI-powered formative assessments to provide real-time actionable feedback to our students and to our educators. We're also looking at AI-driven analytics to support strategic decision-making around student wellness, mental health, and social-emotional learning. And finally, beyond the classroom and beyond the office, we're also looking at ways to increase our efficiency inside our organization and outward-facing in human resources, communication, family engagement, board policy. We're enthusiastically partnering with ECRA Group, which is a Chicago area analytical group, to create some AI assistance for our collective bargaining agreements, for both of our employee groups, and also for our board policies. And if you go to our website, www.nssd112.org, on the bottom right, you'll see Beacon, which is an AI tool from an outfit called Always On. And Beacon should help streamline your search experience. So we've got tools to empower our staff, our community partners. I really want to emphasize that our entire experience has been voluntary. Teachers, if you're interested, here's what it can do. Please try it for you first. If you want students to use it, it has to conform to the Illinois data privacy laws, the federal data privacy laws. We've had our legal team review it. Our aim is that generative artificial intelligence has been around in one form or another for a couple of years, and we're looking to amplify the potential so every student and every educator can benefit from these innovations. And finally, Kendall, a fun fact from World Economic Forum and from some other areas, it took 70 months for Uber to get 100 million users. 70 months. It took 2 months for OpenAI's ChatGPT to get the same number of users. So it's real, it's here, and we're not looking at it as a one-off. And like my colleagues have said this morning, we're trying to integrate it. I'm also trying to say teachers first, students are close second, but we want to make sure we're supporting everybody's learning. And I love what you said, learning alongside one another. It's brilliant. Thank you.
Got to put you back on the spot here because this is an easy question I can address, low-hanging fruit. We're getting questions around the name of your glasses. So can you give, Stephen is wondering, what glasses are you using?
So I'm wearing the Even Realities G1B glasses. These are augmented reality. I'm actually looking at a teleprompter. I recorded some prepared notes from the questions ahead of time, put them in a Google Doc, and then put them in my phone's app for the teleprompter. And I have a black screen behind me, so I'm trying to orient it towards the camera so it looks like I'm looking at you while I'm reading here. It's pretty awesome. And yeah, I saw it at a conference, and now I had to get them.
Yeah, and also this is an AI conversation, so we welcome all assistive technology for this conversation. So thank you for sharing that. Neil, I want to toss it to you for our last question here on kind of where AI, what emerging AI applications you see for your district, and then we'll kind of get into policy, which I know is a hot topic here. But Neil, what's next for Northport? Are there any emerging AI applications you all are evaluating? Any pilot programs next year? Where do you see the district going over the next year or so?
I really think more of the same. I think we're going to keep plugging along. I think that really trying to avoid chasing the next tool. When I was switching the district over to standard reference grading, I had to do the sales pitch round to the school board and to the parent group and to the local Lions Club and got everyone on board. And the way I did that, I think, also relates to this conversation. I started with picture of Andrew Carnegie from 1906, who was big into the Carnegie unit and why we have bell system and credits. And then I show a picture of the 1913 Ford assembly line and then the 2008 Ford assembly line. And clearly, everyone in the audience thinks you're talking about how much technology changed from 1913 to 2008. And then I talk about the CNET's best smartphones of 2008, which was a Sony Ericsson with a screen that slid open with a keyboard, a Nokia with a full QWERTY keyboard, a BlackBerry, the first generation iPhone. So that was 2008, and all of those devices now seem archaic. And so, for us, it really is not about chasing the next tool. It's really being true to who we are as a district. And so we have spent time over the last couple of years working on sort of what skills we want our students to have when they graduate. And so we really focused on things like ethical, inquisitive, goal-oriented, respectful, critical thinker, responsible. And if we can get our students to graduate with those skills, then they'll be well prepared to use whatever AI tool or whatever the next new thing is. And so, not chasing tools, but trying to build core habits and core competencies so students can adapt to whatever world they walk into in the future.
I love that. And thank you so much for touching on kind of how this conversation does align to the future of, what world our third graders now will enter into when they graduate high school and what skills we need to focus on now to get them there. It seems like you all have a lot in common in terms of embracing. I'm not sure if anyone's heard this, but sometimes you got to go slow to go fast. And it seems like this group really is deliberate, intentional, and focuses on that quality over quantity, because I think we all know in the end that is more efficient and can lead to good outcomes. But certainly we've all been part of botched implementations over the years, I'm sure, whether it was in our own career as a student or, even early in my teaching career, I certainly was part of implementations that didn't take off. So I appreciate how deliberate this group is. And I think there's just so much we can all learn from that. Let's talk policy. Caitlin, I know you mentioned that Wooddale has drafted an AI policy, but it's not yet been rolled out to staff. So I think you bring a really unique perspective to this conversation because you are fresh in the process. Can you tell us a little bit more about what you all went through to get that policy drafted and then what you see as the next steps?
I was mentioning earlier, it was that we first wanted to, the why. Why do we have this policy? Why are we implementing AI? Why are we embracing it? Looking at, our full reason and explaining, make sure that all of our admin leadership was on the same page with that. We did not want AI to replace any current curriculum. We did not want AI to allow students to just, I know people use the word cheat with AI a lot, so we didn't want to have that accessible. We are in that situation. We are a K-8 district, so a large majority of our students cannot be on a lot of the AI platforms, but we know sometimes they do go home and access it. So it was like rethinking when we're writing the policy, some of these even assignments that teachers are using in their units and using in their classrooms, because those assignments, if you can put it in a chat GPT, if you can put it in here and it creates that assignment for them, is this a technology or a way we want to teach students to interact with it? So that was kind of our first getting on the same page at the top level, talking to some of those early adopters, how they're using it, which tools they're using it, what purpose they're using for it in their classrooms. And we looked at that. And then most importantly, I'm in a leadership group for tech leaders in Illinois. So I reached out, found some of the email chains that have gone around from surrounding districts and existing policies to make sure we were kind of on the right track as to how people in our community what direction they were headed in as well.
Learning from each other. It's the best we can do. So I appreciate that you referenced that. Thank you so much. One follow-up question for you. I'm curious, do you see a lot of teachers kind of independently testing out other programs out like in the process of the school putting a policy in place? Or was there any guidance around like, let the school lead? How have you all approached that, Caitlin?
So I've only been in this position that I'm finishing up my second year here. So, and prior to me being here, teachers were kind of on their own for technology. They weren't encouraged to use specific programs. They were allowed to do whatever they may like in their classrooms. And that allows for autonomy, but it also then puts students at different advantages and depending on what teacher they have. So there has been a lot of teachers testing it out, which is great. And I've spent a lot of time developing those relationships with teachers so they are willing to tell me what they're doing in their classrooms. So I can find out what they are independently trying out and seeing what is being utilized, and then what, again, with that student data privacy is huge. So to make sure that we're falling into line with state policies as well.
Thank you for elaborating on that. Dr. Lubefeld, having looked over that documentation we referenced, I know you are, and again, that's in the resource library. It's an example of their district's policy. I know you're well-versed on some of the ethical considerations surrounding AI. I'm curious, though, did your team have like a short list or a must-have that needed to be included in any policy that you brought forth to your school community when you were developing it?
Yeah, Kendall, thank you. So as like a free citizen, privately, not in public education, I play around with everything from Microsoft to OpenAI to Google to Mistral, you name it, it's all out there. Here in the school district, we were extremely careful about data privacy, ethical usage, literacy with air quotes, meaning everything we can think of with it, and looking at existing policy language that provided guardrails, and finally calling our attorney and saying, hey, we need some help here. Because I think right now, today, there's only 25 states that actually have policies. Illinois is not one of them yet, but when we got into this journey, there were like 9 states that had guidance. So we were operating a little bit in the Wild West. Some of the non-negotiables were data couldn't be used for any training anytime a teacher or student used it on District 112 property or materials. Student data had to be protected, and no PII, and if PII, personally identifiable information, accidentally got in, it would have to be wiped. We needed sign-offs on the non-disclosure agreements and COPA and SOPA and FERPA and everything. So that is really how it was in terms of the district. That said, as leaders, I encourage people to go check out Google's Notebook LM on their own private setting outside of the district to see what it could do for themselves, knowing that it was 18 or older for a long time. In our world, it absolutely couldn't be used, but being conscious of what's out there. So it was always about, this is challenge by choice. I think it's really important. Here's why. If you're willing to come along the journey, let's go together. But by the way, there's some clear guidelines here. It is not open-ended inside the district.
I think that's very, very fair. And it's something we all have to model, right? On our own free time, we can explore, we can get in the weeds, we can do whatever we choose. But when we enter that school, we do need to keep those things in mind. So thank you so much for that. Adrian, one of the things, Dr. Usher, one of the things I've heard you really echo throughout this conversation is just that mindset that you all have in Bullitt County around modeling that you learn as you go and you kind of learn together. How do you all embrace that mindset while also keeping best practices top of mind for students, teachers, staff?
I think that really goes back to some of what we heard today, especially from Neil, and understanding that, what is the learning experience? It doesn't matter what the tech tool is, whether it's AI, whatever it might be. What is it that students need to learn? Here in Bullitt County, we have a portrait of a learner. There's competencies we want our students to be able to graduate with, and start early on. Start that when they enter our classrooms, if that's preschool. All the way through that journey. And really, what do we know are those best practices at the core of good teaching, the art and science of teaching and learning, and keeping those while also, what is the outcome of this student experience? What is the skills and the knowledge we need students to have in this lesson, or whatever it might be? And where does the AI or the tool fit into that? That has to be foundational in the classroom, and then enhancing that with whatever technology, whether it's technology or AI, whatever it is. And that's really, when we talk about that learn as you go, is understanding the why, the purpose, what we want, what's our vision, our core values, and then adding that on to enhance the experience for adults and students.
Thank you so much. Neil, I'm going to throw a slightly different question to you, if that's okay here. I'm curious, as the superintendent at Northport Schools in Michigan, have any questions about AI been brought up in your community, whether it is about ethical concerns, privacy, security, from families, the school board? What sorts of questions are you all navigating? And how do you, ensure that you're able to answer those while also educating folks on that why that Dr. Usher was touching on there too?
Yeah, it's funny that Dr. Lubefeld talked about Notebook LM. So in my board meeting, when I was talking about our policy update, I used that tool, and I actually uploaded Michigan's Pupil Accounting Manual, which is like the most boring document on earth. And I had Notebook LM, and they'll take that document, turn it into a podcast. And I played it, and the podcast was so good that half my board didn't realize that I was playing them an AI-generated podcast. They want to know how I found a podcast about the manual. So Notebook LM is terrifying, and my board was utterly confused. The biggest concern that I've had from my community actually is more so about like the energy side of using AI. I haven't had much pushback or concern about the ethical or the learning side. I think that the community right now has faith in us as a district making decisions that will help their kids be successful. But there have been several concerns about the energy usage and the environmental impact of using AI.
Sharing that, and I appreciate you calling out the podcast Google LLM. I also, the first time I listened to it, was terrified and excited the first time I started playing with that. So I can only imagine, if I didn't have context that I had going into that, how that might have triggered some wonderings. But I think that's really cool that you're experimenting and showcasing different tools to them. Caitlin, I'm curious in your role, for others who might be instructional technology coaches joining us here today, I know there are more than a few. What advice would you give to them about supporting teachers to adopt and embrace AI as they look to kind of the end of this school year and think about next year in their work with students?
It's, kind of what we've mentioned, touch base on earlier today, is just getting them to take that risk and knowing that once you take that risk, you can't really break it. You might learn from that experience. It's that growth mindset that we preach to students daily is, try it, see what it can enhance your classroom instruction. It can challenge you to grow as an educator. Which is a lot of people, if you're looking at your evaluations, you can, start to put that on there that you're challenging yourself and growing as a professional. But it's just showing them what doors it can open for students and showing them how it changes the world of education. You, again, have to be intentional, and that slow roll we were talking about all afternoon, but it can really just make that learning a memorable experience for the students in the classroom. But you have to get that trust, build that trusting relationship with the teachers in order to get them to take that risk and challenge themselves and challenge their thinking. You have some teachers who have been doing this for 20, 25, 30 years, and they've had the same kind of thing, but this is such a unique experience and opportunity for both the teacher and the students to grow and learn together.
Absolutely. Very, very well said. We are nearing the end of our time here, and I do want to jump into a couple free-form questions that we have. Before I do that, I do just want to circle back to Otis and mention how we are integrating AI into the tools that we provide, and then I will toss some questions at our panelists. I just want to thank everyone who's here with us for their engagement. You all have kept me on my toes keeping track of these questions here, so thank you so much. But I mentioned earlier, Otis offers K-12 schools assessment, grading, data, and progress monitoring tools in one place. Really everything you need to monitor and improve student performance. Otis AI is a question and answer tool, and we really equate this to giving every teacher an assistant that they can go to in real time for help with any questions that they may have or daily tasks that they're really wanting support with. So whether they're looking for AI to identify common learning gaps before they move on to new content in their instruction, whether they're looking for support with ideas that they can use to reteach students during small group instruction that are aligned to the learning standards you're working on, data-driven instruction, or maybe they want AI to write an email to students' parents using the data that's already in Otis. Otis AI can do all of those things in seconds, and referencing the student learning data that is already in Otis is such a huge part of what we do to ensure an accurate and reliable answer. This information is not coming from outside sources. Like you've heard our panel mention here today, protecting student privacy is truly of the utmost importance for us at Otis. So I do have a slide that I'm going to pop up here that's going to show you what we're doing to ensure student privacy. I'm just having a little issue with the slide deck here. I think some of y'all flagged that for me earlier. Don't worry, we will get that sorted. In the meantime, I'll just, oh, there it is. It went through. Thank you so much for whoever helped me on the back end there. Those transitions were really throwing me off. But as I mentioned, and as you heard others mention throughout today, privacy first. That's what we embrace at Otis. And you can learn more about what that means for us as far as how AI tools are opt-in only. We are not currently making AI accessible to students. Those are just some notes there. You can certainly learn more about Otis at otis.com, but our vision is really bringing AI to the tools that we already have that are helping teachers to really look at the complete picture of the student's growth and make meaning of what that means as far as what do they need next to grow. But with that, let's do some open Q&A here. I've got a question. This is directed specifically towards the superintendent on our panel. So I'm going to just toss this one to Neil. Let's go with you to start here. Do you have any advice for principals who are looking to use AI for teacher evaluations? And then I'll open it up in case anyone else wants to jump in on that. It's an interesting question.
Well, I think the first thing is you have to know your superintendent and what their expectations are. But for me, I don't want the AI to do the, I'm going to say thinking for my principal, but I am fine with it doing the writing for my principal. I think that we have to figure out how to offload tasks. And so if you can come up with enough data in your observation notes that it can generate a decent response, you should use that as your starting point. So it's not creating the ideas, but it's putting your ideas into a more shareable form that you're then going to review. So saving the time from actually having to type the whole document.
Thank you so much. And would anyone else, Dr. Usher, Dr. Lewefeld, anyone else want to jump in? And is anyone considering AI for principal evaluation or for teacher evaluations? Any other thoughts?
Our principals are encouraged to use these approved tools that we have if it's going to enhance their original authentic selves. So if they take their own bespoke observation data that they actually did, but they're using an AI tool like Gemini or Magic School AI or School AI to make their writing a little clearer or more concise, that's okay. It isn't okay to use the generative AI first to create content. It's only okay right now, kind of as we're going through our own ethical usage, to have it enhance or create your critical thinking, or do what Neil said, get a podcast of your original work versus having some other entity do the work for you. I completely agree.
I agree as well. And I think the feedback piece, teachers need feedback.
Yeah.
And the feedback needs to be quality. So starting with your own ideas and ensuring that the feedback you're giving to the teacher is clear and aligned to what to whatever your system is.
Part of quality is timely also.
Yeah.
Yes.
It takes a long time to produce high quality feedback.
Yes.
Well said. A little bit of a different direction here, Caitlin, but I'm going to ask you this question. We did see this come up a few times. Any thoughts on how AI can be used to improve literacy for students who might be below grade reading level?
Do you have AI with the ability to level text? And I know a lot of EdTech tools already offer that level text, different lexile, but here again, it throws in that authentic connection piece where you can level it out. There's a reteaching available to that as well. So you have students at different levels coming in, still getting the same information. Because I think historically, that level text, it would just omit vocabulary or omit information to make it at the student's level, but you have AI reacting to the needs of the students and still getting them that same information using the same types of vocabulary, but meeting them at their level.
Well said. Especially with leveling text, that is a huge benefit there. I know we are close on time. I do want to ask just a question more. I think it's an interesting one that we didn't really discuss, but I'm curious if anyone has thoughts, and then we'll go ahead and close it up. But thank you again just for the fantastic engagement. I'm not exactly sure who is most suited to answer this question, but we did have a number of folks asking around effective AI use for multilingual students or special populations. Does anyone want to speak to if they've evaluated tools for this, if they're encouraging use in the same ways they are with other students? Are we using any special tools to support special populations? Any thoughts?
Yeah, so if I may, Caitlin, Neil, Adrian, is it okay? So first off, I want to point out everyone's thinking towards Stanford University. The word storm, STORM, .genie, GENIE, .stanford.edu, storm.genie.stanford.edu. That is one of the Stanford Human Artificial Intelligence Center's tools to help you answer that question and to help you collate tools and to find out. So similar to what my colleague said today, it's not tool specific for the multilingual learners. It's conceptual, it's pedagogical, it's educational. So every tool that every one of us mentioned can help multilingual learners. As superintendent, I have worked with the director of multilingual learners in our school district to help experiment, explore, and expand and share this with him. And he's taking it with the teachers and going through it. There is research emerging within the last 12 to 18 months that's actually scientific, social scientific research. Stanford is the lead entity that I've been seeing. There's others out there, of course. I just want to share that with you in time.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to jump in on that question? No pressure. I will ask one final question then, and then we'll wrap it up. And it's really just to bring us back full circle here. Let's imagine that we have school leaders, and I'm sure we do, who are just starting their AI journey on the call with us today. I'd love to hear from each of our panelists around if you have just a word of advice that you would give them as they start this journey. Caitlin, did you want to start it off? Any advice?
Sure. I think it's just jump. It's a simple piece of advice, but it's not, just try it, and it's going to challenge you. It might get you out of that comfort zone. But just like every education trend that's come along in the last 20, 30 years, you just want to grow with it and see how it can enhance that environment that you work in.
Thank you so much. Jump, just do it. I like it. Neil, what about you? Any advice that you'd share with someone just getting started on their journey?
Yeah, I think sticking with my theme today, mine is outside of AI. I think you really need to look at your homework and grading policies, the purpose of assignments and activities. If you are simply giving homework and grading it, AI is going to destroy you. And you have to, as an educator, know what your purpose is, what you're hoping to get out of the assignment, out of the activity, out of the assessment, and make sure that you have a grading policy that aligns with that.
That's huge. We have to look at our practices before we can bring anything new into the picture. Thank you. Dr. Usher, what advice do you have for anyone on the call just getting started?
I would say start with what you're already doing. Don't make AI something extra or, something in isolation from what we already have going on. So start with what you're doing. What are your goals? What are your district's goals? What's your strategic plan? What's your vision? What's your why? And start there and then embed into the work you're already doing.
Thank you so much. And last but certainly not least, Dr. Liebefeld, what advice do you have for our audience today?
All right, get the 2025 Future of Jobs report from the World Economic Forum. It's 290 pages. Pop it into Google's Notebook LM, and you'll find that the top 10 fastest growing skills by 2030, AI and big data, networks and cybersecurity, technology literacy, and please make sure you set forth clear ethical guidelines and privacy safeguards, comprehensive PD, student and staff voice in any pilots you have, AI literacy is a core competency, and professional capacity building. Thank you, Ken.
Well said. You just summed up our whole hour in 10 seconds or less. Very well said. Well, thank you everyone for the engagement, for being here with us. We do get all these questions afterwards, so if there are any that I can pass along to our panelists that are very specific, I most certainly will, along with your information. And as I mentioned, this is being recorded. So if you learned something here, pass it on to a colleague, a friend. The best we can do for each other is just continue to talk, listen, learn, and share ideas just like this. If you'd like to learn more about Otis AI, our question and answer tool, we encourage you to check out otis.com. I know there were a few resources in the resource list there for you today to point you there, but just in case, there's our website. We're just so thankful that we had this incredible panel here to share their experience with you all. So thank you, and I hope you have a great day. And I hope to see you back at an Otis EdWeek webinar in the future. I know I love seeing everyone's name in the list. So thanks for being here with me.